Hey, welcome on into Bleacher Talk special live show coming at you 2 weeks in a row live last week on Saturday morning right after the brackets came out. It was so much fun. We had Brock Farrell on. We had some players on from Canyon Del Oro. It was a great time as always. But tonight, first round of the playoffs. Lots of lopsided scores, lots of fun, exciting moments in games. So welcome. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be here 45 minutes, hour-ish maybe. We've got some fun guests going to come on, including our teammate Eliav Gabai, who witnessed one of the bloodbaths in a first half over at Desert Edge. But Claudia, I was out at ALA Gilbert North. It was a good game in the first half against Marana, 6 versus 11. It was 20-12. The Eagles, Brandon Phelps, the U of A commit, 2 touchdowns. He owns like every receiving record in Arizona that you could possibly own. So proved why. I mean, 29 consecutive games now with a touchdown. He has been lights out. Really fun to watch him in person. And second half, they've been kind of running away with that. So got some good guests that you're going to tell us all about, Claudia, but I know you've been monitoring and keeping an eye on things too.
Yeah, I'm officially 9 months pregnant. So like the best place for me to be is at home watching everything that's going on versus like trying to fumble up and down sidelines. So that's what we're rolling with right now. But it's really cool kind of being in this position of just sitting back and watching everything that's happening. And a couple of games that really stood out to me. First of all, one of the most surprising games that I'm seeing tonight, and I'm going to see if I can pull up a score if we've got a final score yet, but Perry versus Mountain Point. Perry's kind of that team that Spurge, you and I have talked about a whole bunch this season and have said, okay, this could be, the year they're, and it is, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I have no idea what the final score is right now at the moment. If there is a final score, let's see. Zach Elvira's out at the game. 104 left to play, and Perry is leading 30-27. So, but that is exactly what I'm talking about. 30-27. It has been up and down. Mountain Point really, really putting up a fight. Zach's most recent tweet said flags flying now near the Perry sideline. Tinsley went down just in front of Dillard Allen, who tapped him as his momentum carried him over the top. A couple Perry players didn't like it, and flags started to fly. So we'll have to keep monitoring that game. But that's the one that's been really fun to chase all night. And then Castile versus Sandra Day O'Connor, same thing, very back and forth. That's been a fun one to keep up with. We'll check up on that if we've got a score for that game as well. That's the fun thing about these live streams is we just got to roll with what's happening.
We're sitting here. We're like scrolling through Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, nonstop, and texting people and all that. But yeah, we're giving this a shot. It's fun. It's different.
The other one that I texted you before we jumped on the live stream, Canyon Del Oro losing to Poston Butte, 45-20. Absolutely shocking. That is a team that was in and out of the open division rankings. Major upset. I think Spurge, you even look like you're confirming that that's correct, because it's definitely shocking that having been a team that we expect. Is that wrong?
So no, it was the other way around. Canyon Del Oro beat Poston Butte 45-20.
All right, I am going based on the bracket on the AIA website right now, so that must have gotten flipped around.
It's this happens a lot, and it's not a knock on the AA or anything like that.
This is
Max Preps.
Okay.
AIA, it happens a lot. I'm actually looking at that now. That's interesting that they.
Hey, well, you know what?
That's Canyon Del Oro. They advanced.
We both picked Canyon Del Oro and quick picks. That doesn't do much for me, but major plus there. We're getting ready here to hopefully have a Ty Detmer on. Send him the link over here and see if we'll get him on to talk a little bit about the open division. We're looking to have him on. Spurge, you mentioned Brandon Phelps, 29 consecutive games scoring. Just how impressive was he seeing him, first playoff game of his senior season?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that's been, in the leader on this offense with some really good quarterbacks, Adam DeMonte in the past, and now White, who's doing a fantastic job over there at LA Gilbert North. So he's had some great guys throwing him the ball, but he makes big time plays. I mean, his 2 touchdowns, one, I was kind of staying like for those that don't know, rule of thumb, shooting, you stay above the offense so that you can, catch them if they get to the end zone. I was like, you know what? They've been getting stuffed a little bit. I want to get some like cool shots of the run game. And of course, immediately 10-yard out route takes it 67 yards to the end zone. So saw that breakaway speed. And then on the other touchdown he had, just a slant inside where he broke off 2 tackles and was able to score. So he can do it all. He's a receiver that is all over the field and can affect the game in many ways. He's their kicker. He's their punter as well. He actually had a 55-yard punt before the end of the first half as well. So not saying he's going to be doing that for U of A in the future, because I'm sure they have their special teams lined up. But in a pinch, he's a guy that can really do it all for them. So he's really exciting. And Claudia, I wanted to stick in 4A real quick. We talked about Canyon Del Oro. Some really fun ones. So we know that Snowflake has been a team that we've gotten to know a lot, and we see them at Sun Devil Stadium a lot. You've been up to the White Mountains to see them. They had a chance to win the game today. They tied it up on a touchdown, but it was brought back by a penalty. They end up losing to Micah Mountain 31-24. Not necessarily an upset because Micah Mountain is the higher seed, but Snowflake kind of showed that championship pedigree that program's built. So that was a really tough win for Micah Mountain.
Yeah, I think going into it, we just assume, and don't make assumptions. Playoffs, you never know how it's going to go. I feel like we just saw that in baseball. I know that you just covered a whole World Series where a whole lot of unexpected happened. And, same to say about football, I guess. You just think a team like Snowflake with as much experience as they have, but it's also a small school. So they're obviously going to turn around players and it's not going to be the same team every year, despite the fact that it really is like a bloodline lineage of players coming from the same families and same like kind of talent pool. But that should be really fun to watch them. Another 4A playoff final score. Arcadia still undefeated with a 23-20 win over Coconino. Arcadia is a school we got to know a little bit more this year. Got some cool highlights from them as well throughout the season. I think Eliav went out to an Arcadia football game earlier in the year. And I think we probably all would have picked Arcadia to win that one as well. It wasn't in our quick picks, but super impressed. Let's see.
Coach Brown's done such a great job there too, turning that program into what it is now. To go 11-0, we saw them at Media Day ahead of the season, and there was like, wow, this team looks really energized. Really, they love being coached by Coach Brown. Let's see what happens. And boom, here they are, 11-0. He's definitely in consideration for Coach of the Year, and not only the awards that we're a part of in different varieties, but other awards all across that people do. If you don't have them on the list, you're missing out. Doing that with that program is so impressive. And then they're going to be matched up against Thunderbird next week, another program that we got to know a little bit last year, and we saw sort of the things they were instilling. It's paying off for them this year. A great regular season, and now they have their first playoff win this year. So that's going to be a cool matchup.
We have a final score with Perry Mountain Point. You got any final guesses? What do you think the final is there?
I think Perry held off and they won 30-27. Is that what happened?
Yes, they did. Final score, right. Perry High School moves on 30-27 after defeating Mountain Point. Honestly, hats off to Mountain Point. I thought I didn't expect it to necessarily not be close. I didn't expect it to be this close and this back and forth. I think that's honestly I think that's good for Perry moving forward, having that level of competition and just kind of seeing, okay, you have to treat every opponent like it's brand new, you're starting over. But Perry's a school that we're showing I don't want to call it a little extra love or anything like that, but we do plan to follow the Perry potential run for a 6A ring, fairly new head coach over there turning things around. And Spurge, I think you know a little bit more about the storyline we're following there.
Yeah, Coach Ortiz lost his grandfather this year, and it's his second year with the program kind of turning it around. So Chris Peterson over on our website, I think we just posted today, it's like 20-something minutes long. He followed around Coach Ortiz before the final game, a crazy game against Basha. A lot of things happened in that one. So definitely if you're looking to look back and maybe get more context, that's a good way to go. But, goodness, this Perry team, I was talking to Zach Elvira about it on AZ Audibles, or I think we were done with Audibles and we talked about it. It's one of those teams you can't quite put your thumb on it. They're not the most talented team in 6A. They don't have the best players in 6A. They don't have like really much. And this is not a knock that like overpowers you and says, that's why I'm picking them to win. They just have that it factor that you can't quite put your thumb on, where it's they have a belief in the system. They run their system great. They like each other. They enjoy playing together. They love playing for Coach Ortiz, and that's something that holds a lot of value. They kind of play with a chip on their shoulder, and yes, they play in the Premier Region, but all the teams they lost to in the Premier Region are in the Open, so they feel, hey, we're the best team standing. Outside of that Premier Region, we feel like we're the best team standing. That's how the Pumas feel. So, yeah, that I think you probably feel the same way. It's why we think they could be the team holding up the gold ball at the end of the 6A playoffs, because there's just, I don't know. I can't put my thumb on it, but they're going to be there.
If you didn't watch the most recent Bleacher Talk, first of all, what are you doing? You're missing out. But just because I'm losing in quick picks and I need to give myself a little bit of cred, last year I picked our Open Division winners pretty early on in the season. And several weeks ago, I said, I think Perry could be our 6A team this year. I do have a couple other final scores that I can pull up here. Shout out to our buddy Cody Cameron, who was out at the Castile game. Castile won 38-35 over Sandra Day O'Connor. And then shout out to Chile, that's at Just Chile. Final score, Williamsfield beats Boulder Creek 35-6. So
Chile pulling double time. He was down the street in my hood at Higley. That was 72-3. So he made the move over to Williamsfield.
Seems like the right move. Yeah, that's what you got to do. You just truck on over to the next one once you can guess what the final's looking like. All right, let's see. We're going to get, I think we lost Ty tonight. I might have been too late sending my text out. So we're going to get Conrad Hamilton, head coach over at Desert Mountain, out on here soon. See if I can get a couple other scores. Millennium moves on to the 5A quarterfinals, 24-3 victory over Kellis. Shout out to Jacob Saliga for that final score. We want to give cred where credit is due, because we love you guys.
So we're seeing a lot of really great 5A teams, and a lot of them are just running through some of the lower seeds. Like we've listed off some of the scores. Horizon 77-21 for Canyon View. Higley dropped 70. That's going to be a loaded 5A bracket, and that's part of the reason why I'm excited to talk to Conrad Hamilton, Claudia, because they're the lone 5A team in the Open that starts next week. But they played in the toughest region in 5A, and 5A is loaded this year.
It is.
So yes, they're 5A, but they're battle tested for this Open division. Like they're ready. They're ready. I can't wait to ask them about that, because this is a team that went through the gauntlet of 5A region play, and here they are in the Open. This is not a team that's going to just be like, oh, we're the 5A team. It's not going to work. Like we could have won a gold ball in 5A. Well, sure, they could have, but they could win one in the Open too. They're not just going to back down.
Definitely not. And that's, I think my very first recruiting roundup of the season was highlighting Desert Edge and Desert Mountain, because they were my two teams with a ton of recruits and a ton of potential to end up in the Open. Once again, just I'm giving myself a little bit of credit for something, since I'm so far back in our quick picks. But yeah, they've had an absolutely really, really tough schedule. Their only loss this season was to Higley 58-21 just a few weeks ago. And outside of that, it looks like they've held every opponent to under 22 points. Yeah, really, really impressive season.
Yeah, and we talked about some of the top teams in 5A. We actually have an upset alert, and maybe you said this earlier when I was quickly grabbing my dog over there. He's over there chewing on things he's not supposed to sometimes. But Campo Verde beating Cactus, the 13 over the 4. Cactus is a team that was in the 4A title game last year, and a team that was, destined to do big things. But Campo Verde pulls it off 28-21. Big win for them. And that's a program that's been on the up and up. I've only had the chance to see them the last 2 years against Higley, which is not a fair barometer to see them because Higley is just a juggernaut. But Campo Verde upsetting number 4 Cactus, that's a big win. That's a win that can, give you confidence that no matter who you play next week, that you're feeling good.
We have a couple matchups lined up in 4A already. I'm really excited about this first one. Yuma Catholic playing Eastmark. Eastmark, a team that obviously won the title last season, and then now new head coach. Obviously, Scooter Molander went over from Eastmark to Desert Vista. I think that's really cool, an opportunity to continue on and win another state championship. Arcadia will play Thunderbird. That looks like it was a close game. Thunderbird against Bradshaw Mountain. The final score in that game was 17-16. That's on the AIA bracket. Let's see if I can get a little bit more out of 5A. We know it'll be Higley Millennium. No other matchups lined up. We know Desert Edge is moving on. We'll have Eliav Gabay on in a little bit to talk about that game. And then Horizon, big win, 77-21. 77-21 over Canyon View. Whew.
That is a big win. And Claudia, I see we've got Coach Conrad Hamilton here as we're talking about 5A. So this is a good time to bring him on in. Coach, how you doing?
What's up? How you guys doing?
We're doing good. I'm sure you're keeping your eye on probably some of the 5A games and teams that you had the pleasure of playing all season. If you've been keeping an eye on it, like I assume you are, what's standing out to you right now?
You know what, to be honest with you, to tell you the truth, I'm not eyeballing the 5A playoffs at all. I got back from practice maybe about an hour and a half ago, just ate. We had practice tonight. We're totally focused on trying to beat Centennial and focusing on our tasks in the open. We'll look back at it because you know what? We don't want to tease ourselves, right? We played in 5A. We played in Northeast Valley section. We won that section. We competed against all those teams. Our fight now is not with 5A anymore. They put us in the 6A bracket, and now we got to go do our thing. So that's really what we're focusing on right now.
And that's a fair point, too. I was just talking about that before you came on because there's lots of discussion about the Open. You guys aren't going to necessarily care about the discussions. You're there to play against Centennial. But what I will say, being the 5A team coming out of the toughest 5A region in a loaded 5A division this year, you guys are battle tested, right? Like, this is not like Centennial, yes, is maybe a step up from some things, but not necessarily in the fact that you played some of the toughest teams in the state this year.
Yeah, let's keep it real now, right? You're playing – the 6A teams are playing 6A opponents every week, right? Bigger schools, a lot more athletes on the field, right? So that's the challenge, when we look at it, just keeping it real, right, is, we played a 90% 5A schedule. And now because of the success that we had against a 90% 5A schedule, they're making the 5A team play in a 6A playoff. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense, and everybody will talk about that. We can talk about that, maybe after the playoffs and after the Open and all the 5A and 6A brackets are all complete, because I do think the AIA has to have the formula for that, because you look at it 2 or 3 years ago, Cactus and LA, Queen Creek, they were the best teams in 4A. They were undefeated. They never got a chance to play each other. Last year, Queen Creek got put into the Open. All right, they're one of the better 5A teams. They weren't in our bracket. Now this year, they're taking us out of it. It's an honor. The reason why we like the challenge is because, the AIA has made the Open be very prestigious within itself. And so it's an honor for us to be a representative of considering one of the top 8 teams in the state of Arizona and playing against the top competition. And as a former competitor myself and teaching our kids to reach greatness, no matter what situation you may put in, you put forth your best effort, right? And you know what? We're going to put forth our best effort. And if our guys play the way we feel like we're capable of playing, we feel like we can beat anybody in this field.
Coach, I appreciate the honesty around the topic because I think it's just a discussion that has, since I've been covering Arizona high school football the last 2.5 years, it's kind of been this discussion of, okay, at what point does the open not make sense anymore? I don't think you're the only coach that's kind of like, okay, well, we want to win a state championship. I hear that. But I'm curious looking, and it looks like you have something to say, so I want to give you a chance real quick.
Well, I mean, if you look at it like right now, whatever, I mean, I don't know what some of the scores I did see, like Cactus was losing in 5A to Campo Verde, but like, look, if you had a 6A playoff, you're going to get teams, what's the use of having a team that's the 8 or 9 seed saying that they're the 6A champion? That doesn't make much sense to me. And then, if you want to have good, hardcore competition, you're going to have 8-9 games that now they're the 1-2 in the 6A bracket. You're going to get, the number 4 seed playing a tough 13 seed. The overall play in the playoffs, in my opinion, would be better and more competitive if they just kept everybody in their regions, but I understand the PowerPoints. I understand how they're doing things. We get, we were the number 16, so we're proud of that ranking. And we can't wait to get the opportunity to play in the open against Centennial just to see how we fare because our kids are proud of the success that they've had over the last 3 or 4 years. And if this is where the AAA system puts us, then we're happy to play in it. But I do feel like there is a better system, and everybody knows it.
So you talk about your guys the last 3-4 years. You have a stacked and loaded senior class. I know we talked to you early on ahead of the season. I've been out to Desert Mountain a couple times this year, and those guys, we all know who we're talking about here, really do stand out in every game. Tell me how Dylan, the rest of the senior class, the example that they're setting and the impact that they've made this season.
You know what? They just had an impact on our whole organization over the last 4 years. If you just really look at it, just talking regular season alone, even if you include the COVID year, I think our program is 30-6. And those kids are freshmen, so they didn't play on varsity that year. The last 3 regular seasons, we have a total record of 26-4. We've won 2 section championships out of the last 3. We've been to 2 consecutive semifinals. These kids right now, the senior class, Santana, Dylan Hip, all these guys, they play both ways for us, are their senior captains. They're some of our hardest workers, and they've matured over the last several years to become good quality people just throughout the whole recruiting process and just everything in general, and representing our organization like we want them to. So we're very proud of them. They're going to leave their mark for sure. Win, lose, or draw over these next 3 or 4 weeks. We're definitely indebted to their servitude to our program for sure.
So prepping for Centennial now, you get the extra week. There's, lots to look at. Obviously not giving away the game plan, but as you kind of look at things and you're really dialing in this next week, what are the strengths that you feel like you guys need to really rely on? And what are maybe some of the things that you see with Centennial that you think you guys have a chance to, I think exploit's the wrong word, but really attack?
Well, first and foremost, whatever, we're a defensive-minded program. We feel like if you always can play good defense, whatever, you always have a shot to be in the ball games. So we're going to rely on our front 4. We feel like, Tony Cumberland, he's been out. He hasn't been healthy over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Last week he did play sparingly. Was out of shape a little bit, still recovering from his head injury that he suffered way back against Horizon. We feel like if he's in the lineup and he's healthy and he's taking all the snaps that, he's a tough guy to handle. Dylan Hip does play both ways, but I think he's a very good defensive end. And then our back end out wide with Santana Wilson, who was the defensive player of the year this year in our Northeast Valley section. I think he's one of the best players in the state of Arizona in the back end. And so we feel like we match up back there. The other corner opposite of him was also first team all section, Elijah Mears. He can run, he can cover. So the challenge for us on defense would be is they play a physical brand of football, right? Centennial, historically, whatever, even when I was at Chaparral, they want to line up and punch you in the mouth, right? And so we know that. We know we got to be ready for a fist fight. They do have, some talented guys on the perimeter playing wide receiver, right? Number 11, number 1, their running back can scoot and go. So we're going to have our hands full, but just like any defensive team, if we can stop the run and put them into certain passing situations with some of the things we do schematically and the way we cover in the back end, I think we'll be in for a challenge for sure. I think we'll be able to challenge those guys. And then offensively, our stars just have to be stars, right? I mean, let's just keep it real. They have good players. Their edge players are long, right? They have good guys in the back end that can run a little bit. But, again, if our stars are stars, we have a Division I tight end. We have a Division I long receiver. We have a Division I slot kid. We have a Division I quarterback. And if you throw Santana into the mix and maybe Tony Cumberland on offense, if our stars are stars, we can compete with anybody. It's just, are they going to be tired? All right, how are they? Are they healthy? And then, schematically, we got to do our due diligence, and do the things that we can do to maybe put them in situations that may not play to their strengths. And that's really about coaching. That's why football is the best sport in the entire world, because of that one game adage, right? And we've played Centennial before. I was the head coach at Centennial. The last time we played him as the head coach, we went in a double overtime. Over there, they did beat us. And then I played, when I was a coordinator there with Regal when we did beat him in the state championship game. So there's some familiarity with that. They're not going to change. They're a physical team. And, we're just proud and honored to get the chance to play them next Friday at their place.
I've got one last question, and then I'll hand it over to Spurge if he has anything left. But with the bye week and just like a little extra time to practice and get ready for this opponent, what's the mood like? What's different? And how are you utilizing this extra time?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to be very transparent with you guys. I think initially, our team, right? We've been on the cusp of winning a state championship the last 2 or 3 years, technically, right? And so, initially our guys, as sophomores, we were beating Horizon the entire game. They came back, they beat us late. Last year we got beat by a last-minute field goal. So our guys were like, man, we want redemption against those teams. We want to get a chance to beat those guys in a 5A format. But now, they were a little sad that day, and then we come and we pep them up. Hey, look where this program has changed. Look where we're at. Look where we arrived. The AIA has put together this format to present the best teams in Arizona. They feel like we're one of the best teams. Guys, let's go. Let's run through a wall. Let's take on this challenge. Let's take on this opportunity. And I think this week we have given them a couple days off. So Monday and Tuesday we didn't practice. We watched the film in class on Notre Dame on Monday and Tuesday. We gave them the afternoons off. Yesterday we had a walkthrough, and we had a little bit of a special teams practice, did some conditioning. Today was our first day presenting their defense versus our offense, and tomorrow we'll do a defensive practice. Saturday we'll come in and lift and run, and then we'll do like a team building activity. I think we're going to go bowl Saturday night and have some fun with the guys, right? So we can get ready to start our new season next week. But we're just, right, trying to get fresh and then preparing our minds. But I will say we brought up a lot of freshmen to help out with the scout team, and the mood in the room and the mood on the field or whatever is very, very upbeat. And we like where we're at right now.
Hey, the mood is always upbeat at Desert Mountain, I've got to say. Every time, even just pregame, you can feel it. So I believe that. If Spurge doesn't have anything else, we appreciate you jumping on and what is kind of a night off for you. And best of luck next week.
No, thank you so much. Appreciate you having on. And Claudia, man, you're glowing. My wife over here, she's sitting with me. She's had 5 beautiful kids of her own. She said this is your first. There's nothing like a woman that's about to have a baby. You have that glow. So
thank you.
God bless you, man. And hopefully everything works out, And,
appreciate it. Well, absolutely. Might be at the game, might not next week. We'll see.
Got you. Good talking to you as well.
Absolutely. Always good to talk with you. Thanks for keeping it real with us. And good luck next week.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Have a good night.
You too.
Yep.
Always love having the coaches on to join us and talk a little bit about what have seen all season, what we're about to see. I think we're going to bring our good old pal Eliav Gabai in here for a little bit. Let him know it's time for him to jump on.
There he is, Eliav.
Hey,
the king of social spotlight has joined us after with
exactly 10
first
o'clock.
half.
Way to nail the timing.
Yeah.
Come on, going live. When y'all said we're going live, I'm ready. I'm pumped. I'm nice and warm now.
And we are very live. This guy has been waiting to make his debut.
Our guy.
He is like, why are we on and talking in the room right now? He's not
He's
used
getting
to
big
that.
on you. My
A
God.
little bit. He's a big boy.
Yeah, we had a fun one out at Desert Edge against Buena. It depends what side you're on, depending if it was fun or not. But I'll put it this way. The first 2 plays of offense for Desert Edge, each of them resulted in a touchdown. Now, I don't know what better way to get the playoffs going, to get the playoff energy right. The home crowd was absolutely loving it. And that defense, wow. That Desert Edge defense, just too much for Buena. But I got to give a credit to Buena's Charlie Price. He had a sweet TD snag to put Buena on the board, but it wasn't much more than that. I'm not going to get too deep into it until we start to get conversation going, but I definitely have some players to shout out.
Hey, we'll jump into that. Players to shout out. We were, out there. Desert Edge is like just on the cusp of being a little bit far for some of us, but we always want to get out to see them. And we knew we could wait. So Desert Edge should take this as a compliment, because since very early on in the season, we're like, they're going to be in the playoffs. We'll get the best highlights. We're going to get out there during playoffs. And it's because we knew they would be there. We had this conversation, I think week 1, Desert Mountain, Desert Edge. Those were those teams that we kind of thought had that open division potential. Obviously, that's not where Desert Edge landed. Recruiting roundup person here. So that's where my brain goes. Tons and tons of recruits over at Desert Edge, pretty much like all committed to Kansas. That's just the thing to do over there, I guess. One of them, Deshaun Warner, I know stood out to you. Tell me a little bit about him.
Yeah, absolutely. The man was everywhere. He showed what a captain is all about, not just with, on the sidelines, but really just being an absolute ball hawk out there. Seriously. He even got a safety to get it going. The defense as a whole also got an interception, a few sacks, a couple that he was a part of. And that was all in the first half, mind you. Everything I'm saying is in the first half. So, yeah, shout out to Deshaun Warner and his squad, because, as good as the offense was, and we're about to talk about them, they were fantastic. The defense was just suffocating and really gives me some serious belief in this Desert Edge team.
It
makes me sad talking this.
Score 58-14 in that game. We don't want to bury the punchline there. Big win, 58-14. All right, Spurge, take it away.
No, I was gonna say this. What bums me out is going back to what Coach Hamilton just said. For those just tuning in, by the way, we just had Conrad Hamilton on, the coach of Desert Mountain. They wanted their chance at that, and I think there's no guarantees. We see Higley drop 72, Horizon drop 77, Campo Verde upset Cactus. Like, even if Desert Mountain was in there, it's not a guarantee. But I think we would have been headed to a Desert Edge, Desert Mountain championship, and that honestly would maybe be the best championship to watch out of even the open division. Like, that game with the star power that you got to witness tonight, Eliav, and what Desert Mountain has would have been incredible, absolutely electric. Great defensive players all over the field, great offensive weapons, quarterbacks who can sling it. The open division, that's going to be a discussion that continues to be had as we move past this season, where that goes next. But that's my biggest takeaway is, wow, this could have been really fun. And it still is going to be fun, because Desert Edge right now, I'm not going to pick a favorite because there's 5 or 6 teams dropping 50-plus points in 5A, but Desert Edge is right there.
Couple with 70-plus. What are we talking about here? Is this basketball? Eliav, any other quick hits on this game? And then I kind of want to run through some final matchups we're looking at, and maybe we can give a couple thoughts on those as they're coming out as these games are wrapping up.
Yeah, I'm going to just give a couple more shout outs, a couple on offense. First of all, again, all in the first half, 7 total touchdowns in the first half. And I got to give credit to Markai McKinnon, running back for Desert Edge, the Scorpion running back, 3 rushing touchdowns in that first half. And then, of course, the QB. When you give it 7 touchdowns, 4 of those through the air, got to give love to Hezekiah Melender. He was calm under pressure, which shout out to the O-line, not that much pressure all the time. But when he did get the pressure, he not only was able to use his feet to gain yardage, but at least just stay mobile, stay calm, and make the necessary throw. He just made it look so easy. And then, and again, Mark-I McKinnon just looked like a man amongst boys out there, just bashing through tackle after tackle. So yeah, obviously I just saw it with my own eyes, so I'm a little jaded right now, but Desert Edge, oh my God, I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan. It's going to be fun to see, as y'all were mentioning, Spurge, you were saying how this is going to shake out. Because when it comes to this 5, I mean, I want to say like 4 teams that have, maybe 5 that have real talent all over the place. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the final score yet, but I know Desert Edge plays the winner of Sunny Slope Notre Dame Prep. I mean, those are 2 teams with a lot of electric players as well. So, obviously, you didn't get to maybe talk to coaches afterwards, but I mean, this team's got to be feeling good, right? On the sidelines, they were probably feeling themselves, and that's a big thing heading into the next round as well. It's just, hey, this is a confidence booster. If we got up to an early lead, took care of things by halftime, we're pretty much done. That's a big win.
Yeah, I mean, and the discipline was still there. When there were mistakes, like even the man himself, who was all over the place, Deshaun Warner, even he made a mistake by roughing the punter and giving the possession back to Buena. I mean, the coaches weren't just laughing that off; they were on it. You can't make those kind of mistakes at this point. Obviously, they were fine, and Deshaun made up for that in plenty, but. Those are the kind of things that they're trying to obviously clean up going to the next round. Everything matters.
And I do see a final score from @AndyPage117 on that Notre Dame Prep Sunny Slope game. Do we have this was when did we choose this in quick picks? I think so, yes, because I picked
we did, yeah. You picked Sunny Slope, but I've seen Notre Dame Prep play them early in the year, and yeah, looks like it was more of the same.
Yep, 35-20.
Okay. I was like, you got me on pins and needles.
Nope. That's how I'm rolling this season. I'm just not our quick picks queen ever. But that's the final score with that game, which that should be fun to watch. I'm gonna run through a couple more.
And real quick on the quick picks things, when you were Claudia Faust, you were the quick picks queen, and ever since then it slipped from you, and you haven't been able to fully.
Hey Roman,
I think it's a good trade though.
Where are you at?
Hey, fair point. Maybe I need to hyphenate my name. I could just split the difference and fall in the middle every single year.
No, I just noticed that. I was like, wait a second, because the first season, Claudia.
Yeah, no, I crushed it. I crushed it year 1.
And then she got married and lost the lead, and I won. And then Coop won last year, and.
It all goes back to one date.
Maybe when I add another human to the family, then it's going to be like the little luck charm I needed.
Unfair advantage, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start in 4A here. I'm going to run through some of them, but I'll point out a couple just with games that I think that we have been to, or teams we've seen. We talked about that Yuma Catholic Eastmark matchup. I think that's going to be a fun one. Eliav, this one's a little bit more for you. Arcadia is going to be playing Thunderbird. I know you got to see Arcadia a little bit this season. What do you remember about that Arcadia game? And I know that life is a blur right now as we're in playoffs, but whatever you might remember.
Oh, you know what I do remember is them going up by, it felt like 1,000 after the first quarter. I mean, I think it was legitimately 30-something to 0 after the first quarter. I mean, what stood out to me was versatility. The running back was throwing touchdown passes. The quarterback got in the slot. I mean, maybe they were just extra confident and juiced up, so they were doing things outside. But the point is, the skills are there, and then the defense backed that up, with big time plays, and so did the special teams. So we know Ray Brown's got these guys absolutely clicking and feeling themselves at the right time, and all year, really a whole lot of momentum for this team. So, I mean, again, it's hard to pick someone other than when you've seen them play at that kind of level. So I am going to roll with Arcadia, but wow, just what a performance from them from my vantage point and what they're capable of.
And that'll be a fun matchup. That's the number 4 and number 5 seed. So I feel like that's like the ideal scenario. And then I don't think we've gotten out to see these teams, but Northwest Christian will play Micah Mountain. And then I just found the final score for that ACP Lee Williams game. This is on Max Prep, so if it's incorrect, don't come for me. But Arizona College Prep won 21-14. I think we probably all would have picked ACP in that matchup. I think that's going to be fun. ACP against Canyon del Oro. I feel like that's just what ACP kind of needs, because just thinking of location alone of where Arizona College Prep is, please go check out. I guess it is a shameless plug, but go check out the story I did on just the way they navigate recruitment over at ACP. Really, really cool program to learn about. I think this is a fun matchup because Canyon del Oro, like I said, that team that was in and out of the open rankings, ACP, they're ranked 10. They play a pretty tough schedule. Being in 4A, I'd say they're on the tougher side as far as schedule goes. So that's really fun. And then I'm going to move over to 5A. We'll see if we've got some updates there. Number 1 seed, Higley will play Millennium. Let's see, what was that final score at Millennium? 24-3, Millennium won. I've got Higley moving forward. Haven't even seen them this season. All I've seen is the highlights, and that is enough to tell me.
There's lots of highlights. They are explosive. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Zuby's got that team rolling.
Next matchup, number 5, Apollo against Campo Verde. I think that's going to be a fun one for sure. You've gone out to Campo Verde this season, right, Spurge?
Yeah, I've seen them. I mean, I said this earlier in the show too, for those tuning in. Like, I haven't had the best gauge on them the last 2 years. I've seen them play against Higley, but I will say last year's game against Higley compared to this year's game against Higley, Campo Verde felt more like they belonged on the field. And so this is a team that's dangerous, but Apollo, I mean, they've got some dudes over there. The running back over there is an absolute stud. Like, that's a team that, I mean, they dropped 56 tonight. And it's going to be, they're going to have their work cut out for them. But, Apollo probably is the better team in that matchup. But, hey, you just saw 13 beat a 4. Why not go beat a 5 too?
And then I am seeing that the ALA Gilbert North game is still going on. Is that correct?
Possibly. Last I saw, they were up like 32-12.
Oh, yeah.
30-12.
This is just not updated. That's why I'm saying don't absolutely trust me. Max Preps is saying it's still the third quarter and it's 27-12. So we're not going to roll with that.
Then versus Horizon, that's going to be a great matchup.
I was about to say, Gilbert North is one of those strong 6 seeds for sure.
Yeah, seeing them this year and seeing them against tonight, I mean, we know Brandon Phelps, we know Titan Slade, we know, they have an aerial attack that's legit. They're coming off a 4A championship. Now they're in 5A. That defensive front just gets after it. And I saw a play today. I'll have to go check my Twitter again to make sure I get this right. That was the craziest pick I've seen this year. A one-handed pick in coverage, going back behind his body to make the play. I want to make sure I shout out the correct player. Because that was something that just shows the athleticism on this team. It was a Stockton Dye, number 10 over there at ALA Gilbert North. If you were to watch the play, you can go over to my Twitter at Spurgeon and see it. But, yeah, it goes not the greatest throw in the world, so he had an opportunity, but he still did go make a play. But besides the point, that front 7 gets after it, and the linebackers are quick and athletic, and Coach Reisdorf just knows how to build a program. And each year they just get better and better. Them and ALA Queen Creek, really all the ALAs, we could do a whole hour on them. It doesn't matter what division they're in. They just continue to win.
They're definitely.
We do talk about 4A, 5A teams in the open. ALA Queen Creek's like the one team that's put the chink in that armor, but now they're 6A, so not really, but we'll table that.
I'll tell you what, look out for that Horizon run game, though. That's going to be dangerous no matter who they play, of course. So I'm excited for that. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself. As Claudia said, we still have scores coming in. It's craziness in the high school football playoffs. But
that would be a fun offensive game, though, for sure. ALA Gilbert North, I saw them against Higley, and that one was relatively back and forth, if I remember correctly. And I think that would be that might be the game of Man, I'm saying that, but 5A, yeah, we were talking about it. 5A stacked, but I think that would be the game to watch next week, which we knew that as well because we haven't gone out to see Horizon. And the reason for that all along has been, yeah, they're going to be in the playoffs. Let's get the teams that we're a little bit more unsure of, which isn't a knock. But anyways, let's move on to 6A with our last couple minutes here. Number 8 seed Castile is going to be playing number 1 Brophy Prep. I am really excited about this game. I feel like it doesn't feel to me like a 1-8 seed matchup. I don't know about you guys. It does feel like it could be really close. Brophy, I've said it in Bleacher Talk the last few weeks, they have absolutely turned things around from last season. Tons of preseason hype last year, and they're doing the thing this year. Have either of you seen Brophy this season?
Yeah, I've had a chance to see Brophy, and you know, they were battling in that one. They were definitely they ended up losing, but they were absolutely battling in that one. And really, to me, it was the conversations after the game that stood out. Where yes, it was a loss, but it was one that you could tell they were building upon. And it wasn't going to be something that was going to bring them down. And you clearly saw when that was about midway through the season. And as you said, Claudia, I mean, they just continue to roll and really earn that number 1 seed. So while I am rolling with Brophy, also just to give Castile credit, I think they've been through a lot this year as far as the health bug is concerned. So I definitely want to see what they're capable of in on this stage. But no, yeah, I'm gonna roll with Brophy.
The next matchup I've got here, Red Mountain, and then I had to look it up on Max Preps because it's not in the bracket yet. But Pinnacle defeated Desert Ridge 35-18, which I would have picked Pinnacle in that game. I think we probably all would have. That'll be super fun to watch. I am going to say it now. I think Pinnacle will probably run it back, and by that I mean they'll probably at least be in the championship game if I had to guess. So that I guess that's me saying maybe it's a Perry Pinnacle matchup at the end of at the end of all this. We'll have to see.
Wyatt Horton's the guy over there, and they've got some great receivers. Not going to count out Red Mountain, though. This team that's been in the semifinals a couple years in a row. They continually get there. They've fallen just short. I know it's a new team this year. Simon Lopez, though, who kind of took over at quarterback, has been legit, taking over for one of the Heaps over there for Kyle Heap. And that's going to be a fun matchup because, Wyatt Horton still, I mean, I think there's been a lot of great quarterback play out of seniors this year, and maybe he's gotten lost in the shuffle of the conversation, but he's still one of the top quarterbacks in the state. There's no doubt about that.
Do not count him out. We know that for sure. That kid is a true competitor, and we saw that through just his whole off-season story, even not giving up the opportunity to potentially play, and it worked out for him. So happy to see that. The next matchup, it's probably the 6A game of the week. Saguaro will be playing Perry. That's going to be really cool. Obviously, Saguaro has been in back-to-back Open Division state championship games. Is that correct? Am I?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, am I having pregnancy brain? And then Perry.
The first time they've been in the 6A bracket ever.
Wow, that is true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. And I mean, Saguaro is that team that's known for like being the reason that the Open Division even exists.
Right.
One that doesn't know that, which you probably do because I'm the one with pregnancy brain right now. Everyone else is probably doing just fine. But I mean, Saguaro was that small school that was just having too much success. And so the Open Division was created, and now it's like, okay, do we reel back on this? That's the question. We'll just have to wait and see how things play out. Saguaro Perry will be, I think, everybody's 6A game to watch next week. Whoever wins that probably will win the title, would be my guess. And then the final matchup. Any last comments on that Saguaro Perry matchup before I give you our last one?
No, just saying, go ahead, Elio.
No, I was just saying, I love Tinsley. I think he is a sight to see when he's running. Obviously, I guess by accident I've been partial to the run game this whole time, but like I mean it's just convincing when you see it in all its power, you know. So that's going to be interesting for Saguaro to deal with. Obviously, Perry has a lot of weapons, but man, Tinsley just stands out on the field.
Yeah, and Saguaro's still a very dangerous team. I know they've battled the injury bug a little bit and played an absolutely just brutal schedule the last 2 years. Last year, they were able to squeak into the Open and make a run. This year, they don't squeak into the Open under Zach Hill, but doesn't mean they don't have a run in them. I think they have a legit shot, but like we said earlier, Claudia, there's just Perry's that team out of every conference right now that I can't put my thumb on it. They just have that thing that tells me they're going to be hoisting a gold ball. It's Coach Ortiz. It's the buy-in. It's the way that they play for each other. There's no special on-field thing that I see that's like, whoa, that jumps off. They just have that it factor, and that's a real thing.
And the reason I want to say this isn't a knock on Saguaro is because we're seeing a lot of other teams that are going through. It happens every season. New coaches, new culture, all of that. They're still finding a lot of success and making it to this point. And the 6A is still a big win because if you look at those other teams, which I'm not going to call out right now, they're just obviously it's more of a culture shock with the other teams. There's a lot less success for those teams. For Saguaro to still be the 3 seed and still be in talks at this point of the season with so much change. I mean, losing a lot of key players, obviously losing your quarterback and who was, arguably the best in the state. The size thing aside, he was probably the best high school quarterback in the state last year. It's a lot of change for one season. So saying that there's just this thing about Perry doesn't mean that there's something about Saguaro too.
No, and since I shouted out Tinsley, I'm also going to shout out Jaden Matthews because that man is also fun to watch. Absolutely. He's quick. He's electric, really, is the word I'll use for him in the backfield. So if I'm give shout out to Tinsley, definitely Jaden Matthews. Either one of them can really put the team on their back. So we'll see.
All right, last matchup is number 2 South Point Catholic against Williams Field. I think that's going to be really cool. South Point Catholic is very experienced. They know the playoffs. They're familiar with it. Williams Field, I can't give you a running history on the success that Williams Field has had over the last 5-ish years. But from what I've seen, Williams Field will be the perfect matchup for our 2 seed.
I mean, that D line against that running game and that O line, oh my God, that's popcorn stuff right there. That's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Dylan Lee on the ground there for Williams Field, Elijah Rushing and crew over on that D line. It's going to be a fun game. I mean, we saw South Point drop 59 tonight, but Williams Field's had some offensive firepower at times. I know they've gone back and forth between 2 quarterbacks, but they kind of ride with the hot hand, and that's going to be a really fun game. Steve Campbell's teams are battle-tested. South Point, we talk about all the time, Claudia, there's some teams up in the White Mountain, some teams in Tucson that, we're here in the Valley. We don't see them, but we always end up seeing them at Sun Devil Stadium. Yeah. We end up seeing them at Sun Devil Stadium. And if they're somehow not one of the top seeds, then we end up seeing them, in a postseason game before Sun Devil Stadium. Obviously, with South Point being a 2, we will not likely see them until if they were to make it to Sun Devil Stadium. So, but this is a team that is going to compete very well against Williams Field.
Oh yeah,
final beat Saguaro. Yeah, I was there for them beating Saguaro at Saguaro, and it was a really back and forth game. But South Point at one point, it really felt like flipped the energy and then held on, and that tells me a lot about a team. When they were down, they get that momentum and then they didn't let it go, and that was the defense that set the tone for them too. So.
And those 2 would potentially meet in the semifinals if that's the case. So if both those teams move on, that'll be fun to see how that plays out. Eliav, thank you so much for checking out some of our teams tonight. Spurge, same to you, holding down the fort. All the highlights that you've seen on pretty much everything Sports 360 AZ this season has been from these two dudes right here who are absolutely crushing it in front of and behind the lens, and holding down the fort while I've been forbidden from shooting on the sideline so that I can.
That is the correct word. She has been mostly forbidden from.
She's fought.
I didn't get in trouble. I didn't get in trouble. It's for safety.
You've been benched.
So yes, yes. Wow. Why did it?
IR.
Yes.
It's not a coach's decision. You know what I mean? Like,
came from the top down.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, anyone who took the time to listen to us talk about postseason football, thank you so much for joining us. You can find this trio on Bleacher Talk every week on Wednesdays at sports360az.com. I would love to see you there.